Welcome to a couple of videos regarding MIDI, whether it's just normal MIDI or virtual MIDI that you want to record. The reason I need to go into this is because in the past, well actually up until Cubase 4, there was only one way of adding virtual instruments. Now there's a completely new way of doing that. By using an instrument track. So I just want to explain the differences between the two, and just so that you know, or you can figure out what will be easier for yourself. So in the past, you had to add a MIDI track. So then you had your MIDI track, and you could record. If you hit record, I can now record MIDI. So there's my MIDI being recorded, which is fine. Okay, but what that's actually doing is, let me just try and tidy it up a bit. Okay, it'll do like that. What it's actually done, I need to see my transport buttons. Okay, so what we've done here is we've recorded MIDI information, and if you go to the mixer, you'll see I have a MIDI channel here. Okay, so what's happening there is we've got MIDI information, which at its most basic is simply an on and an off signal. It isn't sound at all. So what's happening is Cubase is sending the on-off signals, so on-off, on-off, on-off signal out through my sound card's MIDI ports to my virus, and it's then triggering the virus. However, I have absolutely no control over it whatsoever with regards to audio. So by that, what I mean is, all I'm doing is triggering the synth, triggering the synth's MIDI, which in turn is letting you hear the synth externally, but there is no audio coming back into Cubase. So if I was to export this at this moment, so if I go File, Export Audio Mixdown, and I want to drop that onto the desktop as a test, and we'll import it into the track, so I'll show you what we mean. As you can see, there's nothing there. There's no audio whatsoever. The reason for that is because this is just MIDI. It's triggering the synth externally, but to have Cubase record the audio that you hear, you would have to then send the audio from the synth back into Cubase. Obviously, that's not ideal. So as you can see, there isn't actually any audio going to the main output. Now there is ways and means around this. Ways to record the audio. As I said, you would have to have an audio coming back into your sound card, but that's not really the reason I'm showing you this. The reason I'm showing you this is because the way we used MIDI in the past for virtual instruments was by doing this, and then what you would do is hit F11 or go to Devices, VST Instruments, and then you would insert your VST instrument. So you now have a VST instrument, and then, okay, I'll just delete that. It's just because of the way I've got it set up. So you'd have your MIDI track, then you would go and change. Now it will play your VST instrument for you. Okay, now you can see what's happened. You've got your MIDI track still for this, but the VST instrument itself has an audio output. So what that does is it sends the MIDI information to the VST, then the VST sends the information to this audio output, which means now if I was to export it as audio, I would have audio. And also, the main benefit of that means now I can add effects. reverbs and so on and so forth, whereas with a MIDI channel you can't do that. You do have effects, but they're MIDI effects, so they're not the kind of effects that you would want to be using on your track unless you want to use a quantizer or something like that. But with regards to good MIDI effects, you need the VST out now. So that's the way it used to be done, and that's the way it's still done in SX3. Now what you can do is use, let me just get rid of that, use the new tracks called instrument tracks. So if I create an instrument track, let me just close that so I can get rid of this, tidy it up. Okay, so if I create an instrument track, it normally pops up like this now. So what you can do is you can instantly choose your VST. So if I want to do that, or even better, if you go browse presets, so say you're looking for, I don't know, a synth lead. So you can select synth lead, and then it's that I want an arpeggiated synth lead and I want it to be for electronica or dance. You can then click on that. As long as you've got the MIDI input selected, you can preview it. Okay, if I was to take that away, I'll show you that you can preview pretty much anything. So okay, so when you find, so this is really great. It's really cool feature. So when you find the sound that you want, just hit OK. What it does is it goes off, opens up the synth for you, puts it to the sound that you wanted, and now what you've got is a combined audio channel. Well, you've actually got, this is actually a MIDI channel and an audio channel in one. Now, by that, what I mean is, as you can see, it's only opened one channel on the on the mixer, so you don't have to have the MIDI channel and the audio output from the VST. They're both combined into one. So now if I hit record, you'll see that I can still record MIDI in here. But now, instead of having to go into the VST track to write automation and stuff, it's all embedded in one track. So I can come in here and you'll see that if you click where it says volume, all the parameters for the VST, the track, everything's here already. So there's this panel, the sends, the EQ, there's the VST there. So if you want to automate any of the VST settings, and by that I mean, like if I want to go to, let me just see if I can, if I go to oscillator 1, and, no, let's find something better. There's a filter. If I go to the filter and select cutoff and hit OK, in here, now what I'm doing is changing the cutoff. I'm automating the cutoff of the filter on the VST. And I'll show you that. So if we come back to the VST and we find the filter, which is here, if you watch that, it should change when I press play. There you go. Now, if that was a MIDI channel with a VST assigned to it, let me just do that for you real quick. What you would have needed to have done is, if you can see, because we've created, let me just delete that. So you've added your VST, you right click, add a MIDI track, you then assign that MIDI channel to the VST, which is this one, so it's now assigned. So now if you wanted to add the automation like this on the MIDI track, if you hit the MIDI track, you can't do it down here. Because what you're doing is, this is just the automation for the MIDI track. So if I come in here and add some volume automation, let me just copy that onto there, mute that. So So as you can see, I can do things like little volume ramps and stuff. So let me just try and make that a bit more apparent. Might be easier to do it like that, maybe. Okay, so I've got a volume ramp going on. Let me just get rid of this instrument track here. Okay, so the volume, so I can do the volume and I could probably do things like pan. So let me just show you some panning going on as well. You see the panner? Now let's see what happens if I put that down to there and put that up to there. Okay, as you can see, it's panning left and right. Okay, so you've got those kind of basic parameters that work when you've got the MIDI channel. However, now if I want to control any of the settings on this VST, if you come in, we'll try it with another section of the MIDI. So if I come in here, can't see any of that, nothing there. I've gone to more. All I've got is all the MIDI parameters that can be changed. There's no audio that can be changed in here whatsoever. So what I need to do if I'm using the MIDI track is, when you use VSTs in this manner, it creates the VST instrument rack here, and this track is directly related to that. So if I do that, you'll see Mystic here. Now I need to go into here to change any of the parameters of the VST channel. So the top one there, that does the standard panel, the sends and the EQ for this. But if I want to change the VST, I need to come down to this one here, and then we've got things like LFO. If I wanted to do some stuff with the filter, let's see if I can find it. Okay, the filter doesn't seem to be there for some reason. So that looks like another restriction to me. Unless, if I come back here. Quick. Nope. Okay, for some reason unbeknown to me, the filter doesn't show up on this one, so that must be some kind of issue with the way that the VST's automation set up. Maybe you need to add a new parameter or something like that. But as you can see, anyway, just to add, there's just so many more steps. So instead of having all those steps, all I want to be able to do is, let's just get rid of that. Start like this. I want to add Mystic, so add instrument track. Or I want to add, okay, say I like that. Okay, so I like that one. Okay, done. That's it. It's opened the VST. The track's there already. If I want to do any automation, I just click on there and all the parameters are instantly available to me. And there, that's the name of the synth. There's all the parameters that are related to this synth. So filter, cut off. If I hit right, let's have a look. Bring up the automation mode. Oh, sorry, it's not the automation mode I want. It is the tool buttons. Come on here, right, that'll do. Right, wait a minute. So there's some filter automation. If I come in here and record some MIDI, so you see the filter going crazy. So I hit record. So there you go, it's that easy. 2 steps instead of all those crazy steps. Okay, that's almost it, apart from one really important thing, a limitation with the instrument tracks. Because it creates the stereo output channel straight away. When you use the add an instrument track, it only gives you one, which is fine for things like these kind of synths if it's only got one output. However, what if you use a synth that's got multiple outputs? A problem. Let's use, and a lot of people who do dance music well, because a lot of people use battery. So there's battery 3. If I open that up, okay, so I've opened battery 3 up. As you can see, it's I've had to add a MIDI channel, assign battery 3 to that MIDI channel, and as you can see, I've got the MIDI channel here, and I've got the audio channel. Now we don't need the MIDI channel, so I'm just going to hide that. But as you can see, I don't want them all to come through the same channel, and I know for a fact that battery offers me multiple channels. So where are they? What's happened to them? If I go here and I come down here, I know for a fact I've got those channels available to me, but they seem to be gone. What's happened? Okay. Go back to the instrument rack. See this little thing here? If you click on that, you can then activate as many channels as you want. So if you're using a VST that's got multiple outputs, you've got to use it this way. You've got to create the MIDI track, assign the VST here, and then you can go in and tell it how many tracks you want active. When using an instrument track, you can only use the one stereo output, that's it. Okay, so I hope that was useful for you in describing the difference between the two tracks. You'll probably find yourself, well, you'll use a mixture of both, because if you're using a synth that you know is only going to have one output, obviously you're going to use the instrument track because it saves you space, it doesn't create an extra MIDI channel. But if you want to use one with multiple outputs, you have to use just the normal MIDI channel. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.